Loyal viewers of the program, you know trust in the media is near an all-time low. And this tweet caught our eye as one of the possible reasons for the decline of trust. The Associated Press wrote, quote, transgender youth in North Carolina lost access to the gender-affirming treatments many credit as life-saving after the Republican-controlled General Assembly overrode the Democratic governor's veto of legislation banning such care. So compare the Associated Press, that is supposed to be the fairest of all news organizations, to the language and the description from the progressive site Salon.com. Devastating. North Carolina Republicans override Democratic veto to ban gender-affirming care for youth. Subheadline, the GOP supermajority North Carolina is activists say is hell-bent on stripping all of us of our bodily autonomy. It is virtually the same language. The language, of course, suggests North Carolina lawmakers would be responsible for the deaths of transitioning teens who can't get gender-affirming care. That's a hard take. It also is not really an agreed-upon fact. There's a lot of countries across Europe that have stopped these procedures, citing risks, especially among young people. The Associated Press has not accused them of being child killers. Yet, the AP bent to the knee of activist groups who insist the care is life-saving. Before NewsNation, the Associated Press was seen as the cream of the crop when it comes to unbiased news. It was the wire service. It was the epitome of just the facts, who, what, where, when. And they sell their content to newspapers and news stations right and left. If they're now accepting one side's truth, it's very hard to have a fair argument. Ian Samuel loves a good, fair argument. Harvard Law School fellow, former clerk for Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia. All right, are we right to make such a big deal out of the sort of choice of words here?
Well, I thought what you were going to criticize the Associated Press for is that the tweet contains a typo. It says life-saving. I think they mean life-saving. And I looked at the accompanying article on their website, and it has a different headline. So it does suggest that this description is the content of a tweet and not necessarily maybe their major editorial functions. But let me push back just a little bit on this. It is true, isn't it, that as the AP tweet says, that there are a lot of people in the United States who say that these sorts of treatments, like hormone therapy for, say, a 17-year-old experiencing gender dysphoria, there are a lot of people who say, in good faith, not without contradiction, that that sort of treatment is life-saving, as the AP would say. What is wrong with alerting the reader to the fact that that's what at least some people who are part of this debate say that the stakes are, that at least in the view of the people who oppose this legislation, lives are on the line? It doesn't say that that's true. It says that that's what a lot of people say. And a lot of people do say that, don't they?
Well, sure. Lots of people say lots of things. I guess the question is whether people are activists or journalists, and you can read from that, it's pretty clear which side of the argument, whoever wrote the tweet, obviously tweets don't speak for the entire news organization, but which side of the argument somebody comes down to. It's one thing, I guess, to say, to give both sides, right? It's another thing to be fair to both sides. And when you start using language consistent with one side's argument, that puts your hand on the scale, doesn't it?
Well, I guess I would have thought you would have gone the other way. The AP, in taking the role that you're sort of saying they should take, can't take a position on whether this is life-saving care or not. All it can do is truthfully inform the reader that, look, some people say that this is life-saving and that this is a life-saving intervention. And obviously the North Carolina Republicans who overrode the veto of Governor Cooper, they don't think that, right? Let's assume that these are, decent human beings who don't think that it's life-saving care. And some people who think that it should be available think that it is. That's the impression I would get from reading this tweet. Now, it's true enough, right, that they've chosen to excerpt the arguments from one side rather than another in this sort of short headline. But I would have thought that by definition, the fact that the Republicans overrode the governor's veto of the legislation indicates that, well, they don't agree with that. So clearly there's a live debate on the subject. Don't you think?
I don't know. What I think doesn't really matter. It's why we have people smarter than me to offer their opinions. I just ask the questions. That's the beauty of being the host. It's amazing how that works. Hey, survive the hurricane. True. We'll be thinking about you, and we'll talk soon, all right?
Thank you very much. Have a great weekend.
Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to subscribe. Click the red button to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.